Albert Hall was completely ours, and it was
Wow.
amazing. It was amazing. I've never had so much adrenaline in my life. Will you sing something with me?
Sing grace, how sweet the sound.
We were always pestering my parents saying we wanted a dog for them, bless them. So they've been together their whole lives, which is so sweet. Sometimes if I'm really struggling and I'm focusing on all my problems, I just say to myself, well, that's almost selfish. I know that's a bit of a silly thing to say, like having issues isn't selfish, but if you can reframe it. For example, Joe Biden's recent visit to Ireland, he was so passionate about the fact that his great-great-grandfather or something had been from Mayo. It seems like such a tenuous link. But, you know, people are so proud of their Irish roots. Music was a massive thing for me at school. And we had an absolutely wonderful music department led by this amazing couple to make most of every single day. He gets up every morning and does his physio exercises for 2 or 3 hours. He is so dedicated, and I see him as incredibly wise, and I think his faith is part of that. But
Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my podcast, Coffee's on me, David Quan, where I strive to give guests legacy-worthy interviews that listeners can enjoy while cooking, commuting, relaxing, or walking their pets. The Easter exam term has basically begun. I'm feeling great, and having just come back from Leeds playing korfball for the first time as the uni team needed some replacement for the National Shield competition. We came 14th, but my appreciation for the transferable skills of basketball has grown, which I'm sure that my guest today will resonate given her sporting prowess with netball, among many other things. But we've just enjoyed a latte together on this beautiful Monday morning. For now, we are approaching 10,000 podcast downloads, and if you have been enjoying the discussions on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts, thank you, and please do consider leaving a review and nominating a guest by contacting me via my Linktree, David Quan. Seeing this podcast on people's Spotify Wraps or receiving positive messages about the guests give me tremendous fulfillment, and I cannot thank all the guests enough for their courage and insights. For those new to the podcast, welcome, and thank you in advance for your engagement. Please know that I don't take your time and feedback for granted, because when I started this podcast at a low point of my time in Cambridge, I was mostly just nervous about humiliating myself. But I went ahead with this passion project based on 3 ideals that still make up the content description for every single episode. First, a purpose of giving. Second, learning from others. And third, sharing of stories. Given my many inadequacies, I will certainly listen back to laugh at how naive I am, but I genuinely maintain the deep conviction that this passion project, if wholly true to those founding motivations about giving, learning, and sharing, is a worthwhile pursuit. I'm so excited to introduce my guest, who I've wanted on this podcast for 8 months now.
oh gosh, sorry.
Lucy Martin is in her 3rd year at Emmanuel College, University of Cambridge, studying geography. She's a talented musician and a confident performer, be that singing, dancing, or public speaking. She's a choral scholar and has recently toured Hungary with the Choir of Emmanuel College. She also sings with a jazz band and plays the oboe. In the past, her performing has provided some incredible opportunities, such as singing solo at the Royal Albert Hall and headlining on a main Ghent festival stage in Belgium. Lucy always prioritises her academic studies, but likes to play sport and keep fit too. She plays university netball with his accompanying very intense training schedule, and she has roles on various committees and societies. Fortunately, Lucy considers time management as one thing she is a bit of an expert at. During the holidays, she adores spending time with family and her 2 dogs, and travelling to her special favourite place, Donegal, on the northwest coast of Ireland, where she has family roots. Lucy, very impressive bio. Welcome to my podcast, Coffee's on me, David Con.
Thank you so much for having me, David. Sorry for making you wait so long.
Good things take time. How was your morning?
I've had a good morning, yeah. We just had a nice walk from the coffee shop, and now I'm ready to start the podcast.
That's wonderful. Well, there's so much that we could talk about, and there's many reasons why I wanted you on the podcast for so long, and not least because having, I think, met you through Emma Jazz, playing together, I was just in awe of your confidence and just your kindness as well. You know, you're really welcoming, really inclusive when I was new to the band. I really appreciate that. I just want to start with that.
Thank you. That's so nice to hear.
Let's start in school. You were September Student of the Month in 2018 Year 11. Why did you get that?
Wait, what do you mean?
What made you win Student of the Month for September in Year 11?
How do you know that?
Do my research for the podcast.
Gosh, I don't even specifically remember being Student of the Month. September Year 11. What would have been going on at that time? I guess there were various awards in our school. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Was it not like a formalised award or something?
Not really. That was kind of an informal monthly thing. I can't remember specifically what I was doing at that point, starting my GCSE year. Yeah, I can't remember any significant event that would have caused me to win that award. Did you find that on my school website or something?
I found, it was online, so...
Oh, wow. Did you Google me?
Yeah. There was a lot of music as well, which was really nice. I guess let's start with school then. You did a lot of music.
Yes.
Heavily involved. Do you want to
Yes, no, music was a massive thing for me at school, and it was such a wonderful part of my school experience. I was incredibly lucky because I just went to my normal mixed comprehensive state school, and for most of these schools now, music is really underfunded. Music departments aren't receiving funding or priority. I suppose music isn't considered a core subject, and the government maybe don't value it for the limited funds that they can give to schools. But my school was an exception to that, and we had an absolutely wonderful music department led by this amazing couple called the Taylors, and it was just so many of my favourite memories from school are within the music department. In particular, we had the main band was called the Big Band. You know, most people that were musical wanted to be in the big band, and when I was in year 10, I was chosen to become one of the lead singers for the big band. And you mentioned that you thought I was confident performing in Emma Jazz, and that is where I kind of developed that confidence. I honestly believe that performing doesn't come completely naturally to anyone. It is something that you have to practice in terms of knowing how you're coming across to an audience and actually fully feeling confident and looking like you're enjoying it. I remember filming myself a lot and watching myself back, thinking how would an audience perceive me, or when I would perform, getting my parents or my sisters to film me and watching it back. But no, the big band provided me with so many incredible opportunities. Mr. Taylor was always trying to find functions for us to perform at. And as you mentioned in my bio, we went on some incredible music tours. So one of them was to the Ghent festival in Belgium, where we sung on one of the biggest stages in the festival, and it was just amazing. It was just the most amazing experience. And then we had the chance to perform at the Royal Albert Hall. It was in the interval of, do you know if there's kind of these events that are put on for school choirs where lots of kids go to a big arena and they all sing together, basically. And we were asked if we wanted to perform in the interval of one of these events. So we had 3.5 minutes where the Royal Albert Hall was completely ours, and it was amazing. It was amazing. I've never had so much adrenaline in my life. Because
you were singing solo there, weren't you?
Yes. So me and the band, it was we sung "Let Me Entertain You," and it was a trio number. So we had like harmonies going on in the chorus. There were 3 of us singing, but yeah, I started it off. The first verse was completely just me, and yeah, it was just insane.
Were you nervous?
I was nervous. I mean, I knew I was excited, but once I got out during the day, we rehearsed on the area that we'd be performing in, which was just in the middle of the stadium, and it was, I did think, oh my goodness, all the seats around you. And it was incredible. It was absolutely amazing. I loved it. I had so much adrenaline, like I say, so much of it I almost don't remember because it was such a rush. But no, that was brilliant, and I'm so grateful. The music department was like my home within the school. It's where I made most of my friends. It's always been a massive part of balance for me in my life. I'd always been fairly academically driven, but my parents always encouraged the extracurricular activities, never put any pressure on doing homework, academics, never had any private tuition with any of that. None of that was pushed. It was always encouraging the things that I enjoy, and music was a massive part of that, and I'm very grateful that was their ethos.
Wonderful to hear. I really resonate as well with the transformative involvements that you can have with music. And we also had big band, which was something that we'll aspire to. And funnily enough, the conductor was also called Mr. Taylor's.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah, but I'm sure it's not the same one unless he flies to Australia then back.
Probably not. But wow, no, that's such a weird coincidence.
So just to clarify, so you became lead singer in year 10?
So we kind of had... It was always set up as a sort of trio. We kind of had 3 main singers, and it was me in year 11 and year 10 and 2 older girls.
Wow.
And then, I was lucky enough to do it for the
was
next
that
4 years.
Was that something that you were like aspiring to as a younger girl? Like, wow, I wish one day I could be
really
one of those 3.
It really was. My school would always put on kind of end of term concerts at the local theatre, and the big band was always the performance that everyone looked forward to. It was right at the end of the concert, and the big band would come out. And I do remember sitting in that audience, actually as a year 6, because my sister joined the school a year before me, so she was in the music concert. I went along to watch it. Yeah, Jess, my older sister, she's just 1 year above. So I went to watch it in year 6, and I remember looking in awe, thinking these big band singers were like so cool, bopping around on stage and like having the stage to themselves, and I just thought, that's amazing. But at that time, I didn't expect that I would get there, but it was always an aspiration,
a goal.
Definitely.
Which was good to have that.
Oh yeah.
I also saw on the website you and Jess sing Amazing Grace. I think that was like 2015.
Oh my goodness,
so cool.
did you? Oh wow.
How old were you then?
Must have been...
What year were you? 2015?
Year 8, so the second year of secondary school.
So by then you'd already set your goals on, I want to be one of the best singers at the school.
Well, maybe. I don't know if I was thinking of it in those exact terms, but that's the year that I started having singing lessons, year 8.
You didn't have lessons before?
No, I didn't.
Just for fun?
Yeah, so I would always sing. In primary school we had a kind of fun choir, and like school plays and stuff, and I would enjoy singing, but I never had lessons before then. So me and Jess both started lessons at that point, and we had the same teacher, so that's how we did that duet at a singing evening, and that was wonderful. I absolutely love singing with Jess, and it's so nice to be able to have kind of a hobby in common with my sister like that. But yeah, oh god, I can't believe you watched that video. That's so sweet. That was brilliant. I really enjoyed that.
So what made you both start singing at the same time? Because I would have thought maybe the older sister would have started and then you followed, but it sounds like you both started at the same time. Was there a moment of inspiration in the family where actually we've got good voices and we enjoy this?
Possibly. I don't remember a specific moment. I think we both always enjoyed singing, and maybe realised that as we were getting more involved with the music department, and we were both in secondary school at that point, that could be an option, and maybe just discussed it with our parents at a similar time, and they decided that we could both do it. Obviously just being able to have music lessons is a massive privilege, because they cost, right? You have to pay for them. So I'm very lucky that our parents thought that was important and wanted to and could fund some more music education for us both, because we both were already playing an instrument. I was learning the oboe. I started that in year 5, and Jess started the flute at a similar time. We both had piano lessons when we were smaller, and both gave up the piano, which I regret. Once I started the oboe, I thought, this is much easier, and I got rid of the piano, but I wish I carried on with the piano. So yeah, it was always they were always encouraging getting involved with music, and that was kind of just the next step, and I'm very grateful for that, because it's opened so many doors for me, so many opportunities to perform in bands, perform with friends, make friends, and I love it. Music's a massive part of my life, so yeah. Has
it always pretty much been a big part of your identity then?
I think so, yeah.
Being like a muso?
Oh, I wouldn't call myself... I mean, I didn't hear the word muso until I came to Cambridge. I wouldn't call myself a muso. I have barely any knowledge compared to most Cambridge music students.
So you're more like performance rather than like the theory side of things?
Yeah, I mean, I did actually do A-level music and GCSE music, so I could... So
you're just being humble?
Well, no, I most of it was focused on performance, but I could obviously sit and learn the stuff and the history for the exams that I did at school. But yeah, I think the performing, like I said, has been a massive thing for me, for my confidence and as part of my identity, like you say.
You mentioned like confidence quite a few times, and like, is that just something that you've often had to think about, or do you feel like you have, through music and other things, gone through a rapid transformation? Like, why, or am I just overthinking the word?
No, I think I have always had confidence in myself, but it manifests in a different way when you're standing in front of an audience and it's just you, and it's a different thing to perform than it is to just go about your daily life with confidence, I suppose.
Which confidence did you have?
I think I always had confidence in my general life.
Okay, general.
And at school, I would back myself to do my best. I mean, I'm quite an overthinker. I'm quite an anxious person sometimes, so I would worry about things. But in the end, I knew I always back myself, and I do think that I can do my best or whatever I do, and that's all I've ever aimed to do, really. Just do the best with every opportunity that I've got, and put myself in the best position to be able to do that.
What were the goals that you had set maybe during your teenage years? Like, was getting into Cambridge perhaps one of the goals?
Yes. No, to be completely honest, getting into Cambridge has always been a goal for me. Wow. It might sound strange, but even in primary school...
Really? Wow.
I had it in my head that I would love to be here. So it's incredible that I've been able to realise that ambition, but as a child, we don't live too far from Cambridge, so we visited a little bit. We'd sometimes come up for a day out or for shopping, and I remember walking around thinking, I know that I would love to be here. It's like I could see it in my future, and I knew that it would suit me.
Wow.
If I could just, like I say, carry on doing my best in everything that I did. But I never, like I've mentioned before, I never felt that pressure from anyone else, from teachers, from parents, from anything like that. It was all self-driven. And I thought, I think this place would suit me. And I think it was always a long-term goal. Every little test or kind of rite of passage I'd get to, I think, I'm just going to do my very best so that in the future I might set myself up on a path that might lead to Cambridge. It was always a goal.
Do you feel like through each of those little tests that you're almost like making your own luck through your effort? Yes.
I definitely think nothing that I've done, that I've achieved, is luck. There's parts of life that are luck. Of course there are. And applying to Cambridge, through the application process, there's some luck involved. But as I said about kind of doing my best, the way that I work and the way that I've always worked is that I like to be as prepared as I can be for everything that I do. And then I just set myself up to make the most of every opportunity and to do my best on the day, just to be ready. I think that's something that I have managed to be really good at, is just making sure I've put myself in the most ideal position to make the most of every opportunity that I've got and feel ready. And I suppose that's what I would define as making my own luck, is setting myself up to be in an advantageous position.
That's quite mature, and to plan ahead and to think about the steps that's needed, almost like working backwards. Well, this is my goal. What do I need to do to get there? Where did you get this as a kid? Like, this is like incredible that you've always had this awareness.
Gosh, I don't know. I think, like I said, a supportive family was probably a big part of that. I think I'm very similar to my dad, especially, and kind of maybe some of my opinions probably and my views stem from him. He has these mottos that I love, and one of them is, it doesn't seem to make sense first of all, but one of his mottos is, the more you do, the more you do. And what he means by that is kind of the more things that you do, the more opportunities you make the most of, the more you can do. Even if it's just in your day, just keeping busy, being productive makes you more productive. If you feel lazy or you're lying around, that's only going to lead to you feeling
more lazy.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like a
self-perpetuating.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think my parents are both teachers. They're both educators, both primary school teachers. They met teaching at my primary school. And I think they've got a very healthy and very beneficial to me way of thinking about achievements. Like I said, never pushing academics. And that has always created a calming and supportive environment for me. And if I'm enjoying my life, that helps me to be productive and to be successful in whatever I want to do. And I've always had their support, and I think that's a massive privilege.
If I've not mistaken, Dad studied med at Cambridge and then moved to HSPS.
Yes, yeah. So this is part of the reason I wanted to go to Cambridge as well, probably, was that I knew that my dad had been here, and he came through the same system, you know, the state school system, and had a very similar drive to me when he was younger. They just thought Cambridge was probably the best thing I could aim for, and he similarly thought it would suit him, and he aimed for that. And as I was growing up, I was aware of that. He never pushed me towards it, but I thought, I mean, like
if he can do it, why can't I?
Yeah, like I said, I've always felt like I was fairly similar to him. And in a way, obviously, you're always driven, what I am personally, to make my parents proud, want to make him proud. But I thought, yeah, by his experiences, and that was probably a big advantage to me in applying, was that I had my dad's support, my dad's advice, and I mean, that might even be the reason that I got in. My school wasn't that set up for supporting Cambridge, Oxbridge applications. The teachers didn't have much experience with it, and they'd sent there might have been 2 people the year above me that got into Oxbridge, 1 the year above that, but before that not many, and they were helpful. Some of them were really helpful, and my geography teachers kind of set up practice interviews where they would just ask me random geography questions, which is over Zoom. None of them had any experience with actually what a Cambridge interview was like, or could prepare me in a way that maybe you could if you were paying for your education. You know, they'd be more set up for specifically preparing people for Oxbridge. But my dad was very helpful in that process, and has always been a bit of an inspiration for me, and part of the reason that I always thought, I could come here. I'm sure it could suit me the way that it suited him. But yeah, you're right. So he applied here, he did medicine, and then he found that it didn't suit him, and he switched. And he's always been very honest about that. He didn't find university that easy. He was very homesick, and wasn't focused on the academics while he was here. He actually played a lot of football, got a football blue in the end, and that was his main drive. So again, it's like academics not being the most important thing, or not being the memories that you make, or the things that you remember while you're at university.
Would it gave you some reassurances that you don't have to make necessarily the right decision for a degree choice right away? Like, it's a journey of self-discovery, and I'm sure he went through that as well. Gradually realising what he actually liked, and eventually found his calling through teaching.
Well, yes, no, he definitely found his calling through teaching, but he kind of never really found his passion for what he was studying. He didn't necessarily enjoy the social science thing. It was just that he knew he couldn't do medicine. So in the end, the academics was never the thing for him. But he always says to me now, he says, you're doing it way better than I did. That's what he says to me, because you've chosen. He does. Well, I believe this as well. But no, I know that I've chosen the right degree for me, and I'm enjoying the degree, and that has provided me overall probably a far better experience than him struggling through a course that he didn't enjoy. So I don't think I necessarily then thought, I can just muddle around and eventually end up with my degree. I think it was always the thought that, it would be ideal to choose something that I know I want to do.
Geography is one of the best degrees in terms of you can go the more natural and the human side that you've pursued. So depending on what you want, you can almost tailor the degree to your liking.
Yes, I think that was one of the appeals. Well, one of the main appeals of the degree to me is that my interests have always been incredibly wide-ranging, very broad. And with geography, you don't have to narrow them, especially not straight away. So the first year is half and half human, half physical, and you cover so much. You cover almost everything. One day I'll be doing something really scientific. I was in the tree ring lab one day last term, and then the next day I'm having talks on homelessness in Cambridge, and I'm writing about citizenship. And it's just, everything is such a contrast, but it keeps it all interesting. And I've enjoyed that about the degree, that I haven't had to narrow down my interests too much yet. But like you say, I lean more towards the human side, but I've been able to find that out throughout the degree. So that's been really good.
How did you find like your schooling when, like in primary school especially, when like mum is like, you know, deputy head teacher? Like, did you feel like you had to like behave even better just because it would be quite like ironic if you weren't behaving?
Maybe. Well, I've never been a naughty kid or anything. I think there was a mutual trust between me and my parents that I wouldn't mess things up for them at school, and I knew that I wouldn't. I mean, I've always.
But like, were you one of
school.
those like kids who then, you know, when school ended, you obviously had to wait for mum, then you were in the staff room meeting with your teachers?
Yeah, no, it was definitely a different school experience because my teachers would sometimes be around my house or something because they were my mum's friends.
Do you still call them by what surname?
I do. I still would be like Mr. This, Mrs. That when they come round. But yeah, no, I would come into school early with my mum usually, but I loved it. I absolutely loved the opportunity to kind of make use of the school resources before and after school. I loved drawing on the smart board or playing with getting all the stuff out of the PE cupboard after school and playing in the hall. There were a couple of other kids actually
That's
that
how
had.
you got so good at netball.
That's where it started. Yeah, no, there were a couple of other kids that had parents at the school, and it was almost like an after school club. Sometimes some of us would just put on shows on the little stage in the hall or play together, and I guess that was normal for me, and I really enjoyed having my parents at the school.
Did they teach at the same school?
Yes.
So mum interviewed dad? Was that right?
Oh God, yeah, you have a really good memory. I told you that once. Yeah, so my mum actually was on the interview panel for giving my dad the job at my primary school, which is really
But
funny.
they didn't know each other at that point?
No, they didn't know each other before that, so yeah, they did meet.
It's a nice first date.
Yeah, I know. They did meet teaching at my primary school, yeah, so that was a special place for my family. All three of us, as in me and my two sisters, all went through that school, and we absolutely loved it. It was a very good.
So the Martin
place.
family was quite prominent at that school.
Yes, very, very. My mum taught there she's now left and she's a head teacher at a different school, but she taught there for over 27 years, I think it was, or something. Yeah, so she was there for almost the whole of her career, and people still bump into us in the local area and say, Mrs. Martin, which is really sweet. She started actually teaching children of the children that she taught, which is incredible. Yeah,
I mean, obviously I'm biased studying education, but I just think teachers, you know, it's so important, and just the relationships that they build, and I think it's such a fulfilling career, not just in the moment, but as you said, often kids don't fully appreciate how much of an impact their teachers made until much later on in life, and they look back and connect the dots. And I know that whenever I see my old teachers, is that sense of warmth and all those memories come back, and it's almost like they know a part of you that not many other people do, because they've seen you kind of grow up and at each stage, and that's really wonderful. But I guess being a head teacher encompasses a bit of a different responsibility of, rather than so much the classroom, more of the management of the school governance structure and the logistical processes.
Yes.
And when you were in school, she was, deputy, so she had a bit of both?
Yes, and it was fairly big, my primary school. It had 2 forms in a year, two classes, and she's moved to a smaller school. So when she made that move, she found she had to do, like you say, a lot more of the different sides, like the financials, and lots more admin, and take on lots of jobs that weren't just teaching, because she was a class teacher as well as a deputy at my primary school.
From your perspective as like a child of a teacher, what's your perception of like the UK like state school education system? Like, are teachers overworked, not appreciated? And
I think definitely both. And I think it's just, judging from my parents and other teachers that I've spoken to, it's been getting worse, it's been getting harder, whether it's kind of less funding, more kind of issues from parents, a lot of parents' complaints that have increased, kids becoming more difficult, and also especially coming out of the COVID lockdowns, a lot of children having more mental health issues, or having been more behind because they missed out on some different qualities of and different qualities of homeschooling as well, because some parents would have had the time to dedicate spending with their children and some wouldn't. So there's a lot more problems, and I think it's a very noble career actually to go into, to dedicate your life to educating other people. My sister is about to do the same thing. She's in her final year of a primary education degree.
Nice.
And she is specialising in teaching children with special educational needs, so she's kind of got another step there. Yeah, so she's actually just got a job. She's done amazingly well. She's just got a job set up for September being a class teacher in a special needs school, which is amazing. So she's followed the same path and been inspired by my parents. And I do think it is very inspiring. Like you say, rewarding, but very challenging. And a lot of people think, teachers have long holidays.
A lot of marking and preparing.
But yes, there's so much that teachers do outside of school.
Yeah.
That people don't realise.
And it's also, I think, the expectation on teachers during a school term where you don't just switch off at 3:30 because you're constantly considering the kids' holistic life, their well-being.
Yes. Yeah.
You're almost expected to not just be a teacher, but also a psychologist, also a mediator for their family problems and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and you have to be aware of all of it. And it's, like you say, you can never fully switch off from it. My mum keeps a notepad by her bed at night. Whenever she thinks of something, she writes it down. Because, your head's always worrying. And she's just genuinely driven by a care for each of her students. So
I mean, you've obviously also developed that care and concern for other people. You've got great social skills. Obviously, that love for learning and sharing. Do you feel like you might one day go into education?
Potentially. I could see it being something that I would enjoy. But
teach them how to sing and play the
oboe. I would love all of that. I'm sure that I would. But I think, like you say, it might be something that I do later on. I have no idea. I'm going to be honest. I have no idea what I want to do with my life. But I might, I consider going to teaching later on. But I want to try something else first. But you're right. I do think I would find it rewarding. But then again, the challenges that I've mentioned,
kind of put you off a little bit.
Maybe, or maybe just wanting to diverge a bit from what the rest of my family kind of seems to be doing, and then maybe following in their footsteps afterwards. But
so Dad's motto, one of his motto, as you said, is the more you do, the more you do. What's Mum's motto? What does she keep on repeating?
Oh gosh, I don't know if she has any specific mottos.
Behave.
I don't know. I think my mum definitely isn't driven by the academic side of things. She probably wouldn't even describe herself as very academic. She is a lot more interested in the pastoral side and caring for people, and so that as a priority rather than enforcing studying at school or anything like that.
I know teachers have to make a lot of sacrifices, often at very spontaneous hours or something. Was there any time during your childhood where you kind of seen them go above and beyond? Was there a notable incident or?
There probably were lots of things. I don't know if anything specifically stands out, but like I said about people thinking teachers have long holidays, my parents, especially my mum, spends a lot of time at school during the holidays. Yeah, wow. Kind of sorting things out, even if it's admin or finances, or she does a lot of jobs that people wouldn't expect that head teachers do, even if it's clearing out a cupboard or kind of overseeing builders or whatever. She's always thinking about school, and she's always there, and that's her. She feels that it's her responsibility. And I guess maybe I'd lose them for a week sometimes if they went on a school trip or something, but
quite a lot happens in your household, I guess, with two other siblings. Have you always gotten along quite well? What's the dynamic between you three?
Yes, I've always got on amazingly well with my sisters. I absolutely love having sisters. I always have. Always enjoyed being the youngest as well, I think, having them to look up to. But there's a difference in age. So my eldest sister, Georgie, she's 11 years older than me. and Jess is just the year above me at school. So there's an age gap there, and Jess and I have always maybe been closest just because we've always done things together and gone through school together, but then always looked up to Georgie. Probably really annoyed her when we were little and she was doing her exams and things. But no, that's great. She doesn't live with us anymore because she's moved out with her boyfriend, but it's so nice to have her to visit, or when she comes to visit us, and she's always treating us because she actually now works and has money, unlike us getting into more and more student debt. But no, we've always been really close, and yeah, I love that. I really love that.
So Jess and you, by the sounds of it, had pretty similar interests in music.
Yeah.
Did Georgie have similar interests?
Georgie did have some music lessons, I think, but never really followed music as a particular passion. She was a netballer, actually.
Nice.
She did lots of netball. So yeah, that was her thing.
So like school, I don't know, finish at 3:30 or 5. You get home 6 max. What did you like do at home? Like, were you a gamer? Were you reading? Were you just messing around? Were you playing with your dogs? Like, what made up like your non-school times?
So I wasn't a gamer. I would always have, most days I would have some kind of activity after school, whether that be netball. I used to do some dancing as well, which I absolutely loved.
What type of dance?
Jazz, modern, commercial kind of thing.
Nice.
Yeah. I would call it fun dancing. None of the proper ballet or strict grades or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I loved that. That was part of, to be honest, that probably used to be my favourite thing, and it links to the performing thing. I absolutely loved dance, and that's connecting music and performing. After school, yeah, well, I mean, we'd always have a nice dinner together, play with the dog sometimes, as you say, do a bit of homework.
When did you get Ola and Milo, which are your 2 dogs?
When I was in year 4, so I was about 7 or 8.
They're very much a part of your family.
Oh yes, probably too much. They're very attached to us. They we kind of can't leave them with anyone else. If we go on holiday, they come with us, kind of thing.
They're cockapoos, right?
Yes.
What are like their personalities, like friendly and?
Oh yeah, they're incredibly friendly,
intelligent.
Very cuddly, and I'd say very intelligent. They're funny. They just seem to learn words. For example, they learnt what biscuit meant, so we couldn't say biscuit anymore.
Oh.
But then we would say B, so that they wouldn't know, like just the initial of biscuit. And now they know what B means, so we have to come up with new words all the time.
Wait, so what happens if you say biscuit? Do they just like?
They get all excited. They kind of would probably like put their head on your lap or jump up at you and think, "I'm getting a biscuit." No, they're so funny and they're so cuddly. They're great kind of emotional support animals, to be honest. If you're feeling upset, they'll come and jump on your lap. They're brilliant, but they have some attachment issues. They get quite anxious if you're not there. But they're wonderful. They're so funny. Bless them. I love them.
It must be nice, I think, growing up with pets. Like you said, having something to cuddle and just they're always energetic, right?
Yeah, and they get you out of the house as well. I mean, they need walking every day.
So every day you would take them out for walks.
I mean, most of my dad probably has done, well, he's definitely done more dog walks than anyone. But yeah, obviously most days we would try and join him, and it is, they just get.
Why
you
did
out.
you get 2 dogs?
I think maybe at the time Jess and I thought, one for each of us, but we don't see it like that. Like, we both see them both as our dogs. I don't know. We were always pestering my parents saying we wanted a dog, and in the end they went to see this litter of puppies. They went to see the breeder, which was actually in Cambridge, and they saw these 2 playing together, and they thought they couldn't separate them, and then my dad gave in and we got both of them, and bless them. So they've been together their whole lives, which is so sweet.
And you always wanted a dog, like not cats or rabbits or sheep or I don't know, whatever.
I always thought dogs would be more fun. I think my parents thought the same thing. They both had dogs growing up.
Okay.
And there's just something, like you say, they're so intelligent. I think they're so emotionally intelligent, and you can really connect with a dog. Yeah, they're wonderful.
I think I read somewhere, like dogs obviously are so loyal, they're so bubbly.
Yeah.
Like they're actually like we as humans can learn so much from how they interact, because every time you see a dog, like when you go home, no matter what weather, even if they're sleeping, if they see you, they jump up and they're always excited. And that's how we should approach all of our interactions as well. When we see other people, we might be miserable, we might be tired and stressed and anxious, but it's always just makes everyone feel good when you can show that energy and enthusiasm and smile.
I love that. And that is, like you say, that's a wonderful thing about having them. They are, no matter what, they are so happy
and
to see you.
And that loyalty, like you always see these homeless people with dogs, but their dogs never leave, right? They always stay, no matter the condition. Yeah. And I always really loved dogs for that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think, like you say, if we probably could learn a lot from dogs, and if we could be more like that as people, just genuinely enjoying interacting with other people. That's, like you said in your introduction to your podcast, you know, this is all about connecting with other people, sharing things with other people, being happy in other people's presence, and that's something that I have massively learnt to love, especially at university, and especially when I've been through difficult times. Something that I've come to realise is that if you reframe life and stop looking inwards, it's almost, sometimes if I'm really struggling and I'm focusing on all my problems, I just say to myself, well, that's almost selfish. I know that's a bit of a silly thing to say, like having issues isn't selfish, but if you can reframe it and you can direct energy towards other people, that's actually really healing for yourself, and you can spread so much joy, and there's a real power in that.
I mean, you're obviously really social. You do a lot of things, trying to make the most out of the opportunities. What have you learnt from, I guess, living in a college environment where you're always surrounded by people of very different backgrounds? Like, have you enjoyed the conversations and connecting with others?
Yes, no, I've absolutely loved that. That's one thing that I have learnt and developed a love for at university, is connecting with people and having conversations. I think that the college community is really special because you get that feeling of membership that maybe in a huge university where you're just a number and thousands, you maybe wouldn't feel it. But when you've got that college community, everyone you walk past is a familiar face, someone you can wave at, someone you can catch up with. That's really special. And I do think it's something that society lacks in modern day.
Like connection.
Yeah, and I think it maybe is part of the reason that we're experiencing such more of a mental health crisis, and people seem to be less happy than they were. I mean, people are so much more insular, whether that's being stuck behind their screens or stuck behind their gates in their homes, not even knowing their neighbours. I think this is getting quite weirdly deep, but I don't understand life. I don't understand the meaning of life, probably never will. But one thing that I'm absolutely certain of is that the point, even if it's just part of the point of life, is that you are here to share moments with other people, and that I'm certain is a source of happiness. And that's the one thing that I'm absolutely certain of. And I think the college community is great for that feeling of membership, that feeling of interaction and connecting with people. And I just love, especially here, I'm not saying you can't outside of this institution, but connecting with and learning from people, because obviously, especially here, people are so knowledgeable in their specific area, but in general, and people are so interesting because they've come from all different places, and being genuinely interested in other people and feeling like other people are genuinely interested in you is so rewarding and leads to such good conversation. And I know I love acknowledging there's so much that I don't know, and there's so much that I can learn from other people, whether that's just interacting with, for example, if I'm struggling with economic geography, going to find my friend who does economics and him explaining it to me, which is wonderful, or whether that's interacting with the master at a formal hall or something. I absolutely love
Doug
and appreciate.
Is very cool.
Doug is amazing, isn't he? He's a wonderful master. But I love and appreciate all of those connections and those moments. And yeah, I think I've got a lot better at conversation at university. It's why I actually wanted to do this kind of thing. Yeah, I think it's really important.
I think I totally agree with you. Like, we all need good, meaningful relationships, and feeling like we belong, and that we matter, and that other people matter as well.
Yeah.
I think one of the perhaps big problem is perhaps social anxiety. Maybe people want to feel that, but they feel like they don't have the confidence to introduce themselves to other people.
Yeah.
They perhaps don't feel like they have the social skills to maintain a conversation. For someone who's obviously so good at that, which is you, what advice do you perhaps have for other people who are still seeking that connection?
That's difficult. I guess the hardest thing, I mean, it is the hardest thing, but it's the first step. Just putting yourself out there and trying, and I know it's incredibly difficult if you are suffering with social anxiety, but like I mentioned before, trying to reframe things so that it's not about you. I know that sounds ridiculous because obviously...
What does that mean?
As in thinking someone else might be feeling like that and I want to make their day a bit better. So making it, it's not about me being scared of interacting or other people being worried about interacting with other people. It's trying to reframe it so that you feel like you want to improve someone else's day, or you want to genuinely interested in someone else or finding out about someone else, and then that being a route to connection. And I know that's incredibly hard, but again, I would say even getting involved with things that you enjoy, some kind of extracurricular activity, especially at university, I think is absolutely vital to being in an environment where you can interact with people that you immediately have common ground with. That's a great way of making friends. I was doing open day tours last year for the university of the college, and students would ask me if I had any advice about university, you know, whatever university I ended up going to, and I just said, just get involved, you know, just seek activities, do things that you're interested in or that you already have as hobbies, or things that you want to try, because that is how you make friends. And obviously, shared from my own experience, that is how you find a balance, and a rewarding balance, and you can be more productive. So I definitely would just say, first of all, seeking to do activities with people that you have mutual interest with is a great route to making new connections.
Also really liked the emissions video you did last year. That was all over
Thank you.
all over social media. I think it was on the
Yeah.
Cambridge University's official account.
Yes, yeah, I was asked to be filmed answering some questions put on the main university social medias, and I actually really enjoyed that experience. I was quite nervous about it, and then I thought, well, like my opinion is, for any opportunity, if I've been offered it, I'll go for it and I'll do my best.
Yeah.
And no, it was funny.
Which I think is, you know, at that point I didn't really know you. I don't think we've had some proper conversations, but
Yeah.
on the outside it seemed like, you know, you were confident, you knew what you were, you know, talking about. It seems like you found your community.
Yeah.
You were obviously really good at music, really good at sport. Just seems like someone who's got their life all figured out. And as we all know, that we all have our own insecurities and go through, you know, moments of low confidence and stuff. So, but the point is, like, we only see the best side of other people projected out.
Yes.
Uni has, I guess, overall been great for you, but has there been any like difficulties or challenges that you've had to work through? And
Yes, definitely. Oh my goodness, definitely. Like you say, so much is hidden and people wouldn't necessarily know. But last term in particular was really difficult for me, and I think it's so easy. This place can become a bit of a pressure cooker, and I know that so many people here can end up struggling with their mental health. But last term things went a bit wrong for me. Like I said, I thrive on having that productive balance. Being busy and doing things that I enjoy helps me to be productive, and having a routine and the balance of, you know, good rest, good exercise, things I enjoy, academics. But last term I kind of managed to upset the balance, and then things were really hard. What happened was, at the beginning of term, I had a couple of deadlines. I was a bit stressed, but I had this sleepless night, and I let that kind of spiral in a way. My bed became quite an anxious place. I almost convinced myself that I couldn't sleep, and then that created a lot of issues because I was getting more and more tired, more and more kind of obsessing over sleep. During the day, I wasn't able to focus on the things that I was enjoying, because suddenly I had this really crazy and weird obsession with the fact that I thought I'd forgotten how to sleep, that I couldn't rest. And it sounds completely ridiculous, and I think laughing at it is really important, because I had to, that's how I kind of managed to get through it. And I still have moments where I struggle with it and the feelings come back, but I became really anxious, and I was stuck in these anxious cycles of, well, yeah, and I guess that you do go a bit crazy when you haven't had enough sleep, and it's so much harder to rationalise things in that situation. But I was also fairly ill. I had a really horrible flu-y thing, and being ill at Cambridge really upsets, being able to be productive, managing some injuries which were making sport more difficult. Had shin splints, and it was quite a low time for me, but I managed to carry on, and I managed to get all the essays done. I managed to carry on doing the sport, doing the choir, all my activities, and I got through it, but it was really hard. And I do think, definitely, like I've said already, love conversation. I think that talking really helps, and something that I've enjoyed out of that experience is sharing it with other people, and then realising that so many other people are struggling with different things. And I know so many people suffer way worse than me with their mental health, and have recurring issues, but just hearing from others that most people don't get the sleep thing right at Cambridge. I mean, it's very difficult. You're in a pressured environment, right? Even if it's just because you're too busy or you have an essay to write, you don't end up getting the right amounts of sleep. So many people I've spoken to have said to me, well, I was exactly like that too. Like, I had sleep issues. I couldn't sleep for a week, or, so many people are just dealing with so many mental health issues, and it's so hard, but it's so easy to spiral and to think it's just you and that there's something wrong with you.
And conversations helped you to realise the bigger picture, that actually we're all struggling in some way or another, that we can find solidarity.
Yes, and like I mentioned before about conversation, it's turning the focus away from me. And something that my dad said to me, he was great supporting me through this last time. I would ring him and he offers amazing advice, but he would always just say, first of all, you don't have a problem. Stop convincing yourself you have a problem. You don't have a problem. But second of all, it was him that kind of led that change of mindset to stop thinking about yourself. In a way, look at yourself, get annoyed with yourself and think, this is almost selfish that I'm obsessing about my problems. And then if you can change your outlook and look, like you say, out to other people and other people's problems and share things, then that's definitely a route to getting better yourself, and to not being stuck in these silly cycles of anxiety and obsession.
And it's like following his motto, the more you do, or the less you do for sleep.
Yes, because for sleep, I mean, it's the one thing, I mean, it's a stupid thing, and I know so many people end up at some point in their life struggling with sleep, but it's the one thing that you can't think about, that you don't need to think about, So he actually said to me, he said, stop telling yourself that you need to sleep. Just start thinking, I don't care. And you will sleep at some point. Lie in bed and think, oh well.
Just count to 1,000.
Yeah, like, oh well, I'm just going to lie here. And I'm not even... And it's really hard to say, don't think about anything. Obviously, that's incredibly difficult to switch your brain off. But maybe lie in bed and think about someone else. Think about... just list all the things you're grateful for, but don't think about sleep, because it's the one thing you can't think about.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's really hard. But I'm very happy to say that I feel like I'm coming out of it now, and that it's made me stronger. And, well, firstly, just made me appreciate how difficult it can be to have mental health issues and to be struggling. Because you're trapped in your brain, right? This is one thing you can't get away from. You can't get away from your mind. You're in your mind. You're in your head. So it's crazy, but it's so hard. I think I've learned from it. But like you say, I think a lot of people last term maybe wouldn't have realised the issues that I was having, because I was continuing to do things and to...
You were still like high functioning.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I wouldn't have felt like it, but
you appeared to be, I guess.
I think I probably, for the most part, did appear to be. Yeah, like you say, there's a lot that's hidden that people don't know about. But that's why it's so important to connect with people and to find these things out.
What kind of role do you think, like, music, like for you as a singer, right? You've sung so many songs and you know the lyrics off by heart, and, lyrics, you know, the good songs touch people in a way that it touches our common humanity and, you know, the common themes around love, about resilience, about dealing with issues or overcoming or finding hope, you know, those very, very core human drives that we have.
Yeah.
So for someone like you who clearly knows so much of the lyrics and the songs and the storylines, did that help you at all? Like, just, did the music help you, like, get out of that slump at all?
Yeah, I think so. First of all, music is obviously a great distraction for your mind, or a great way to reset your mind when you're trying to relax. So I would sometimes just lie in bed and play some kind of relaxing music or familiar music that would help me to feel calm, or that would take me back to a time when I was performing that music or stuff like that. But being a part of the choir and continuing, no matter how I felt, to go to choir rehearsals and to do the choir services was really helpful, because it's the sort of thing, it's almost like exercise sometimes. It's the last thing you think you want to drag yourself to and to do, but once you've done it, it resets your mind. And music and singing especially fills you with so many endorphins. And especially singing in a group and sharing that musical experience with friends and people that you're close to, and then with a congregation in a service, especially because a lot of the words, especially to liturgical music or to the music that we sing in services, a lot of the words are really powerful. And
so on that, has there been any particular songs or lyrics or lines that have really touched you that you keep thinking about?
Gosh, that's a good question. I have had particular pieces of music that I've really enjoyed singing this term. I think for me it's not necessarily the specific words, it's the
emotions.
Yeah, and the feeling, especially maybe when a piece is building, or that release of like the climax of the piece where everyone's singing loudly, you can feel the power of everyone's voices behind you. But also maybe the words, what I did enjoy is sitting through services, and there's always a sermon you've got to sit through. And as a member of the choir, you often think, oh my God, here we go. There's another sermon that I've got to sit through before I can have my dinner. But some of the speakers that we have that come to do sermons in chapel, their words I'd find really helpful, really powerful. A lot of them would be full of advice and life lessons. And especially we have this wonderful chaplain who's actually leaving, which is a shame, called David, and he is just brilliant. He is just wonderful, and he would often, I'd find he'd pick up on mental health a lot, because he's very aware that it's something that students can struggle with, in his sermons, and lessons about kind of living a happy life and acknowledging the things around you that bring you joy. And he, especially, his words would always help me. But I think also just the whole experience of a chapel service, which ultimately is based in Christianity, and it's about having a greater belief, a higher belief.
Do you?
Well, yes. I always brought up Catholic, so I always did go to Mass, and I always found Mass a really calming experience spiritually. I haven't studied the Bible in great detail. I wouldn't say I'm a dedicated Christian in that way.
But you believe
But I believe
God.
in something, and I think I do believe in a God. That's something that I've strayed a bit from it. I don't go to Mass regularly anymore. Obviously, I'm still in chapel services, which is similar, not the same. It's not the same as Catholicism, but it's similar. And I do sometimes find that, grasping a belief like that is really helpful, believing in a higher power.
Do you pray?
I do, yeah, I do. Less than I used to. But I don't know. There's so much that I'm uncertain of. But I know that being in a service
Gives you that peace and calm.
Yes. And I know that I like to believe in something. And I think, like I said, believing in connecting with other people, sharing joy with other people, sharing love with other people. That's something that I'm certain of. And that obviously fits into the kind of Christian faith. But I don't know about necessarily, I wouldn't call myself a dedicated Catholic, and I don't know a specific path to follow, but I like to believe in something.
Do you think that might be something you want to look into further as you...
Potentially. Yeah, possibly.
Because you obviously have sung so many of the hymns, and, you know, I think, I totally agree with you. I think they're quite beautiful, not only in the atmosphere, but in, you know, the words of wisdom within the sermons about appreciating... I think the Bible, and I've read a fair bit in the past year in particular, I think it's such an amazing diagnosis of the human condition.
Yeah.
Why we suffer.
Yeah.
And you I think for me, I found a lot of peace and comfort, just understanding that what I'm feeling is not unique.
Yes.
And yet, I think the theme in the Bible, whether or not you believe in the miracles, is that the evil side, the nasty things that we experience and feel and that we sometimes manifest in our own actions can be overcome, and that it is a part of life rather than, we live with that.
Yes.
But God, which symbolizes justice and goodness and perfection, can overcome that. And I think there's definitely some sense of hope in spirituality that is quite amazing. I mean, even Amazing Grace, right? I mean, I know that you sung it because it was on the website.
Yes.
But I think the lyrics is just quite beautiful. And
definitely.
think about it. I heard Amazing Grace so many times in school, but never really, I just like, oh yeah, good tune, but I never really thought about the lyrics. But when you actually think about it, like, you know, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. I just find the juxtaposition of...
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So it's that hope, right?
Yeah, and it's really powerful.
And it's like, I've thought a lot about Amazing Grace, and it's like, it touches on that fear component as well, where, you know, it was grace that taught my heart to fear, which is, I think, referring to, like, to fear God. But then at the same time, because you fear God, all your other fears are relief because you realise that God is for you. And I found... I heard that in one sermon, which was like, wow, it's so cool. Like, simultaneously you have this fear, but also fear is relief because of that fear.
And even if you... I mean, that is great. If you've got that belief that means you can override all of your other fears. But even if you're not a person that believes in God and you're not a Christian, just it's hard, but getting to the point where you can take all of your personal fears and decide that they don't matter in the wider context of everything. That's powerful. Were you Christian then? Were you raised Christian?
So I think our family, we've always believed in God, but it was like we'd never really like had the Bible or anything. It was just God was constantly mentioned, almost like a you know, God is always present, like, you know, whatever you do, like in stressful times, know that it will be fine. And God was almost like a standard of morality, like we should do good because there's justice in the world, that even though other people may not appreciate your actions, but let's do good anyway, because there's a Chinese saying, like, whatever you do, the sky, which is like God, is watching. And that's always kind of been something that I think has always been in my head. I went to a Christian school. I found a lot of peace and comfort in the chapel, in the sermons, although I don't think I fully appreciated the Bible story. I don't think I understood it at the time. And then in the past year, I've been going to church every Sunday, reading the Bible, doing studies. And I'd say I'm pretty confident that there is a good, present, living, personal God. And I think having that as a foundation has been really helpful. And so I guess if I could categorize like my transition with faith, it would be like, most of my childhood, it would be, I have peace in that, but I never felt an urge to explore it. It was just like, yeah, definitely, like chapel, I found it.
You feel like there's something there, but you don't necessarily know
I didn't feel like I need to know, because I just felt so strong that, yeah, there's a sense of order and justice in the world. And then I think during the pandemic, as I left my school, so I didn't have that regular chapel service and the sermons. We weren't a church-going family. And I read the news, and, you know, Christianity isn't always presented in the best light, especially when it comes to, you know, alleged, like, intolerance and all that kind of stuff. And then I went, well, actually, I feel that connection, but I don't want to be involved in a church. I don't want to be labelled as a Christian, because I'm not one of those people. And then in the past year, it's just realising that it actually, like, you're going to church and you're having that connection with God, not necessarily other Christians. And Christians are, by definition, you're admitting that you're a sinner. And there's a lot that you can debate on what actually constitutes a sin. But it's that recognition that we are by nature, or we're separated from God. God is perfect, just, amazing. And we are limited, we are finite. And it's recognizing that you're a sinner, but that you still have that fundamental dignity that you are made in the image of God. Which, if you actually believe that, is actually quite powerful. Like, you know, all the body image issues that people go through, that actually, well, God created you in his image.
Yeah, is another way of reframing everything.
And that your identity becomes stable as a child of God, that you're no longer defined by your academic results, your sporting prowess, how other people perceive you, and you start to realise, well, other people are also struggling on the same thing, that we're actually on this journey together, and God loves not just you, but other people as well. And I think it's really I think I definitely see things through a religious lens, where everyone has that inherent dignity, and you realise that all the bad stuff that I didn't like, so it's almost like the reason why I would be happy to go to church now is precisely actually the reason why I didn't want to go to church, if that makes any sense. So I didn't want to go to church because of all the abuses and the colonialism, all those implications. But now I realise those people commit those crimes not because they followed God too much, but because they didn't follow God enough. Because God is perfect. And if you look at the Gospels and the life of Jesus, it was a perfect life. You know, he doesn't go around doing bad things. He eats with the tax collectors, the sinners, the prostitutes, the people. And it's like, it's actually about love and inclusivity. Whereas I think a lot of Christians just haven't really grasped it. They take a very fundamentalist view and instill a lot of fear in other people. But at the same time, I'm seeing that, well, as long as they're actually trying, then I can appreciate that they're not perfect. They're not God either, even though they're made in the image of God, but they're not perfect representations of God.
I think it's hard, like you say, knowing you have a belief and that you want a faith and you want to believe in something, but then tying yourself to a specific institution is difficult.
So the church is by definition filled with very imperfect people, and all of them are very imperfect.
And that's a really interesting way of, the way that you've kind of come to terms with it is really interesting. But then I can also see why people turn away from the church, or I think it's hard because, like you say, a lot of the teachings you can't argue are incredibly valuable. And I know that feeling of membership when I was younger, and the feeling I used to get going to services. I know that I believed in that. I believed in the feeling. But, you know, thinking about, especially the Catholic Church, has so many issues. And even now, kind of, I don't know, like not even allowing women to be priests, that kind of thing. There's still so much that you think, well, that is inherently a problem with the institution. But does that mean that I want to tie myself to that institution? And if I'm not going to follow all the rules in the way that they set out, should I be a part of that particular community? And then it's deciding, well, what community do I want to be a part of? Because there's so many denominations of Christianity, isn't there? And then it's also difficult considering, well, obviously that's not the only religion. People believe in so many different things all over the world, and obviously that's led to a lot of clashes and conflict. But ultimately, why should what I specifically decide to believe in be right in comparison to what someone else decides to believe in. It's so hard.
It's the big questions that I think we're at the age where it's good to think about and talk about these, and uni's such a great time of sharing community with people of all different faiths, and it's beautiful. I think another kind of probably religious realization that I've had over the past year is probably like, being religious doesn't mean that you suspend critical thinking. It actually means that you be more critical, because you have that standard of God there, of perfection and justice and love.
And you question even more.
You should actually question even more. So the problems that you've raised with churches and religious communities, you shouldn't turn a blind eye to it. You should be even more critical and notice those issues. And being religious also doesn't mean that you retreat from the wider world, from the world that I love, for example. It doesn't mean that if you have this faith and you can only have friends in this faith, that other people are ungodly and that you're in your bubble. Actually means that you go out there and you interact and you learn from it. You realise that everyone has that inherent worth and dignity. And I think having those understanding has given me in the past year the peace to go to church, knowing that I won't agree with everything the pastor always says.
Yeah. But
I respect them, and I'm comfortable debating them and talking to them, and knowing that we're all on a spiritual journey, that they are actually not God. They're as bad as me.
Yeah, no, that's true, isn't it? That's true. I think just being guided by a faith, like you say, can bring so much peace and is really important. My granddad in particular, so that's where our kind of Catholic roots have stemmed from, the Irish Catholicness. So my granddad is Irish, he's an Irish immigrant, and he has always been very strong in his faith and led by that. And I can see in his life, I mean, I don't know if I can put it all down to his faith in God, but he is so inspiring to me. He is just incredible. He's struggling at the moment. He has Parkinson's and it's getting worse and worse, but he's such an inspiration because he's so positive all the time. I've never heard him be negative, and things are really difficult for him now in terms of his mobility, his speech. Everything's getting harder and harder. The things that he can do for himself, his life is far more limited, but he is driven to make most of every single day. He gets up every morning and does his physio exercises for 2 or 3 hours. He is so dedicated and he's so positive. And I was talking to him the other week just before my return to Cambridge about the fact that, you know, I've been feeling worried and about my anxiety last term. And he has managed to he's told me, get rid of worry in his life. And that's obviously, it's easy to say worry is not helpful. Worry is the least productive of all emotions. But you actually see
that he's actually...
Yeah, but through his life, he's managed to get rid of worry because he knows that worry will not help him. And just, I don't know, I see him as incredibly wise, and I think his faith is part of that. But yeah, he's been a massive inspiration to me.
Have you always been quite close with him growing up then?
Yeah, and I think in particular because we've had so many special holidays going back to his home in Ireland and his place in Donegal, that I've felt that connection through him to that beautiful place that we get to visit. And I mean, I'm lucky enough that I've felt close to all my grandparents. I never met my grandma; she died before I was born. But I feel like it's so beneficial being able to be close to your grandparents, and they're such a source of advice and wisdom. And luckily, they all live quite close to me, and I've spent valuable time with all of my grandparents, and that's something that I think is incredibly lucky.
What else have you learnt from him? He's clearly had a massive influence on your life and your outlook.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, his story was that he, at the age that I am now, at 19, he, with one suitcase, crossed the Irish Sea and came to London for work because there were no opportunities. He grew up in a rural farm in Donegal, you know, tells stories about walking to school without any shoes or anything, getting washed from the well every day. And he came to London and experienced a lot of difficulty when he got here. There was a lot of racism against Irish at that time within London, but he managed to find a job, work his way up, met my nan.
What did he do?
He worked in insurance and that kind of banking.
What is there to worry about when there's insurance?
Gosh. But yeah, he's just full of so many stories. But the incredible thing is that he is so. I mean, he still misses home, but he stayed here because he fell in love with my nan and ended up having a family here. But he talks about Ireland all the time and that community, like we were saying about sense of community. He's never had that again, that when he was growing up, everyone's doors open, knowing everyone in the area, live music every night in someone's house.
Wow.
Like, it just sounds amazing. And I think about that, and it was obviously a simpler life and it was a very hard life, Ireland was far less developed than most other places in Europe back then. And, life was tough, but he just said people just were so happy. And I think... Yeah, I mean, it's a stunning place. It's
kind of relates to what you said earlier about, like, the one thing you are certain is that we all need connection with other people.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I've talking to him about his past. Yeah, that has really helped me to realise that. But no, we're lucky. We still have our kind of own community in that area. When we go, I've been 22, 23 times in my life to Ireland, and every time we go, we spend time with, we're friends with the local farmers. We have a lot of second cousins, great aunts and uncles that still live in Ireland, and we often have been able to come together in big groups at the summer and spend time with each other, and that's really special. And they have a big emphasis on that in Ireland that I think is less emphasised here. That kind of idea of like a clan, these are the Martins and we've come together, and it just it makes you feel part of something. It really does. And like thinking about your roots and just the simplicity of just being with other people and enjoying other people's company. It's really
Do you
special.
see yourself perhaps living in Ireland long term?
I don't think so. I think it's somewhere that I'll always want to visit, and I hope I'm always tied to that place, and we always have access to the home that my granddad has maintained for us over there. But there's such a lack of opportunity still in that area. That's why so many people still emigrate from Ireland. It's actually something that I'm really interested in. I'm doing my dissertation in this kind of area, in immigration in Ireland, but it's still maybe later in life. But in terms of the opportunities that I would seek now, I just don't think there's much for me, especially in the harsh kind of rural winter of Donegal, and just the weather can be awful, and there's not a lot to do. There's not even they don't even have trains to places, not good transport connections. It's really hard to get to the nearest city. You'd have to drive everywhere really. So all year round I couldn't see myself living there. But I do find as well when I go over there, just in general, people just seem to be so much more friendly. So nice. Like, you're just walking down the road and you'll bump into someone and they'll say hello, how are you? Have a conversation. You've never met these people before. Whereas in England, people tend to keep their heads down and walk past you. But Irish people are just some of the loveliest people I've ever met. Yeah, and it's wonderful. I really enjoy that.
How would you describe the culture there for people who perhaps haven't visited or know much?
I think it's kind of a unique thing about. I know there's a sense of national pride in most places where you're from, but Irishness, people are so proud to be Irish and they recognise Irish roots in other people. For example, Joe Biden's recent visit to Ireland, he was so passionate about the fact that his great-great-grandfather or something had been from Mayo. It seems like such a tenuous link. But, people are so proud of their Irish roots, and just the Irish population as a population that is known for being friendly, known for that kind of wonderful, uplifting music.
Potatoes.
Potatoes, sense of community. Obviously, a population that has really struggled, and obviously struggled under English colonialism, as a lot of other places have. But yeah, just known for being such a friendly place, and the actual landscape is stunning, especially on that west coast, that Atlantic coast. Beautiful.
Are you quite
beaches.
outdoor person? Like, do you like to go on
I
beach
love
walks?
being outdoors. Yeah, absolutely love it. We spend lots of time in the sea, even though it's freezing. Being there till my hands go blue and purple. But yes, we get to do, what do we do out there? Like surfing, lots of big dog walks,
and
on
big
the
families.
Yeah, and yeah, lots of nice walks, outdoor activities, and doing like kayaking out there. It's just great. I love being outdoors, and sometimes I think. I recognise that while I was stuck in the middle of the Cambridge term, I think, God, I have spent enough time outdoors, and it's so healing to just go on a walk or something and just to be outside and connect again with nature. But yeah,
that's awesome. Last year when we talked, you said you were possibly contemplating a scholarship to Harvard. Is that still on the radar?
I've got to decide this summer what I want to do with my future. That was just one opportunity that I think I might as well, I consider still going for it. Yeah, because it's the thing about being at Cambridge, isn't it, that it opens so many doors.
Yeah.
And there's so many things that you think, well, I might as well go for it. So yeah, that's an opportunity, because Emmanuel have a special connection with Harvard. They offer, a couple of scholarships, and you can even apply. I could even have a year out and then think about applying for it. You can apply, I think, a couple of years after you've left, and just a fully funded year to study something in Harvard.
Definitely the main problem for you is too many options and overwhelmed by the many opportunities.
Obviously, that it kind of seems ridiculous to see that as a problem, because I'm so lucky to have so many doors open, and I see that. But then it's choosing a door.
You made your own luck as well.
But yeah, like you say, it's choosing a path. I don't know. I need to consider whether I want to carry on studying, and that might be wanting to stay in Cambridge, because I do love Cambridge and I have friends that are still here next year. Yeah, I guess that's an opportunity that I mentioned. That I think at the time I just found out that was a thing, and I thought, wow, that is quite amazing.
Very enthusiastic about it.
But yeah, I might want to go, I don't know, straight into work. I might find a career that interests me, but I need to do a lot of research. Have you found that yet? No, I need to do a lot of research over the summer. That's my plan. Because if I do further studying, it would have to be leading me somewhere. I can't just accumulate more debt.
Credentials.
Debt. Yeah, like I can't just keep paying for studying. I mean, it'd be great if I could somehow do something that was funded. I think that's why the Harvard thing was like, oh, what an amazing opportunity for it to be free. Yeah. But obviously it's highly competitive, and I don't even know if I'd want to spend a year away from home. But it's great. It's just an example of all the options and all the doors that being at Cambridge opens, which is why I think, one of the reasons I think this place is so great.
You may not know exactly what you want to do, which is, I think, totally normal. I don't think I know either. But what are some of the core factors that you consider when making these big life decisions? Like, how do you weigh certain factors, like, such as work-life balance, income, proximity to home? Like, what matters to you?
Family matters to me. So yes, definitely being able to still spend time with my family and not being too far from home is important, or will be, for the rest of my life. Like you say, I always just think I want to put myself in the best position possible and make the most of all the opportunities that I've been given. So that's always a driving factor, just doing my best and not saying no to things, to keep all the doors open. I think also certain like morals, in a way, that I want to do something. I don't know what I want to do with my life, but I know I want to be in a career that I enjoy because it's helping in some way. It's helping the world, or it's helping people, or it's contributing to something that I know is positive or seems positive. I need to be doing something that feels worthwhile, and I think that definitely drives me. I couldn't just sit in an office doing something that I think is really mundane and not important, because that would probably drive me a bit insane. And I want the drive to enjoy the work that I end up doing. So that's definitely a factor.
So you had that just innate desire to make a positive impact and contribute to a larger cause. It goes back to this desire to belong and contribute.
Yeah, I think so. I think, like I said before, it's so easy. I mean, I don't know if you do this, but I think most people do, to go on those crazy overthinking spirals about the meaning of life, or like, why am I even here, or why do I even exist, that kind of thing. But, yeah, you know, thinking that you can contribute in a positive way is a great way of kind of grounding yourself in that. And I don't know, you want things to be meaningful. I mean, I've heard you talk about that, you know, that you're very driven by doing good and, contributing positively. I think that's a way of feeling. I want to feel like what I'm doing is fulfilling. I want to feel fulfilled in some way, and I think that's the only way that you can.
So who are your role models then? Like, who do you see as someone who has, I mean, your grandpa being one of them, who has truly lived out his words and demonstrated that integrity throughout his life?
Yeah.
Who else do you look at and go, wow, I really want to model their qualities and their example?
Well, definitely all the family members that I've mentioned. I think obviously my mum and what she contributes as a head teacher is incredible, and my granddad, as I said. My family members are probably the biggest inspirations to me, and my dad has obviously always been an inspiration, and his approach to life and his positivity and the way that, because he had his own struggles. I hope you wouldn't mind me saying that, but in terms of when he was helping me through my mental health last term, he had a almost breakdown kind of thing in lockdown, and he managed to get through that, and that's why he has been so valuable in helping me. Actually, someone that this is, I don't know if you know him, and my dad's going to think this is really funny that I've brought him up because he brings him up at every opportunity. But do you know, I mean, you're Australian yourself, Tim Minchin?
Yes.
You know of Tim Minchin?
I've heard the name, but...
So he wrote Matilda the musical.
Oh, yes, that's right.
He's got long hair, kind of gingery man. Anyway, my dad believes that Tim Minchin helped him out of his struggles. And not in the way... I mean, Tim is this... I mean, he does lots of things. He's a comedian, he's a musician. Some of his work kind of is a bit like, I don't know, kind of satire, a bit rude, kind of comedy. And then he's written, obviously, amazing musicals. He's incredible with his words and his music. But he has an incredible way of communicating. And my dad would probably say that I'm saying this all wrong. He has an amazing way of explaining Tim to people. But he always just says to people, if you can listen to Tim Minchin on a podcast, I can recommend you a few if you like. But his views on the world, and a lot of what my dad has said about life has come from advice that he has got from listening to Tim speak. And a quote that my dad said to me recently, which I think is going to help me through this term, that Tim said on a radio programme or something, was, it's again about finding happiness in the presence of other people and in just every little thing in your day. But it was sit in the presence of the joy of it. So when you wake up in the morning, I don't know, hear a bird singing outside, and just like that, and actually fully be mindful about the fact that that is amazing, or just enjoying every little feeling in your day, the food that you're eating. Just remember to feel joy in everything that you're lucky for. Don't just, I don't know, rush through your day and not acknowledge things. And that's so important. And there's so many different lessons that my dad has tried to communicate through to me about what he's learned from Tim. But he actually managed to meet him. He went to one of his concerts and ended up staying in the same hotel as him, and has spoken to Tim himself.
Wow.
Which it's an incredible story when he tells it, about the fact that he's helped him, and that he can just put into words a lot of the things that my dad believes are important. And Tim isn't religious. He doesn't believe in free will even. So it's a very different approach, and don't necessarily agree with everything that he says, but the way that he just says that you should find happiness in life. Yeah, he has a lot of special and valuable messages, and has a great way of communicating them. and has written some amazing songs as well, and he's quite a funny man, so I'd recommend my dad will be pleased that I've endorsed Tim Minchin on this podcast, but yeah, I definitely recommend learning more about Tim.
That's great. Again, the podcast is, the context is I'm trying to give you a legacy-worthy interview, as I call it, and I consider it like, a meaningful piece of recording that you can look back on in 10, 20 years' time, captures a snapshot of who you are, and I think we'll both listen back to this in a few years' time and go, wow, we have changed. But that's why we do this. We've covered quite a lot of different things. I've got a few to end, but before that, is there anything else that you really want to keep in this recording? Because I don't, of course, know everything about you and what you care about. I don't know if there's anything specific coming to mind. I think we've touched on a lot of the things that I think are important. Found it all right so far?
Yes, I really enjoyed it. It just feels like a conversation, so it's okay.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll maybe go through a round of rapid fire questions, and then we'll end with 2 bigger ones.
Oh gosh, okay.
So
Don't
rapid
challenge
fire.
Me too much.
It's just
quick answer.
Yeah, whatever comes to mind.
Okay, I'm ready.
Favorite movie?
Oh no, this is a terrible question. I don't have a favourite movie. I know that's awful.
Like any ones that has been memorable?
I used to love. I know this is just really basic, but I used to love watching Harry Potter. We'd read the book. Like my dad would read to us at night when we were children, and then we'd watch the film afterwards, and that was always a great family evening. Yeah, I love that kind of fantasy kind of thing.
Your go-to meal your go-to meal for eating out with family. What would you like to eat?
I love the comfort of just Italian food, like a really good carbonara. That would be ideal.
Favorite animal?
I would say dog, definitely. For the reasons we've discussed already. I love dogs.
If you couldn't do netball, what's another sport that you would do?
I think I'd like to be good at tennis. I used to play tennis when I was younger, and I'd love to get better at tennis. So, probably tennis.
What was a childhood nickname that your friends had given you?
Gosh. Well, some people used to call me Belle, because my middle name's Isabel, and I always used to like that. Or like Lou Bell. Everyone's like Lou Bell. That's really cute. But yeah.
Favourite board game?
I loved Cluedo. Playing Cluedo with like a big family group was always really fun.
What's the best investment you've made that costed less than £100? That had the biggest disproportionate impact on your life?
Gosh. God. I don't know. Maybe a music stand, so I can practice all my music in my room. I was going to say one of the things that was a great purchase was obviously my oboe, but that cost a bit more than £100, unfortunately. Instruments are very expensive. Yeah, maybe that, to be able to practice music.
And if you could meet one celebrity for an hour, who would that be?
I think I would like to meet Tim Minchin myself, just because my dad raves about him so much. I would love to be able to talk to him myself and ask him questions.
What would you ask him?
I think I'd just love to talk to him more about, his thoughts about kind of the point of life, the point of things, especially being someone that doesn't have faith. I think that's really interesting, speaking to someone who, because for the reasons we've mentioned, faith is really important, but he doesn't believe in that, and just what drives him to be positive and to produce incredible work, incredible words and songs and stuff. What goes on inside his head. I think that's interesting to talk to any musician about how they come up with inspiring music. Yeah.
It's often done in moments of heartbreak, actually. People's greatest artistic work are often done in their lowest points.
Yeah.
Do you think there's actually a reason for that? Is that causation or correlation? Like, I think it makes sense.
I think it makes sense
lowest
too.
Points.
I think it makes sense too. Like I was talking about, well, last term was one of my lowest points, but I think that was so valuable in everything that I've learned from it and changing my outlook completely. So I can see how a moment like that would cause a shift that would make you productive in a different way or cause you to produce something beautiful. Because in the hardest moments, that's when you learn the most. And I mean, I'm not a composer myself, but I can see that the moments of difficulty would be the most inspiring when you kind of have to see something, you know?
Final rapid fire question. When people hear Lucy Martin, what 3 words would you like them to associate, like to come to mind?
Definitely kind. I think that's so important. If people perceive me as kind, then that is wonderful. I would like happy to be one of the words. I mean, obviously everyone strives towards happiness, but I'd hope that other people see that I'm happy because I genuinely am. I just want to be happy in my life. Another word. I don't know. Maybe just supportive for similar reasons. Or loving. Just, being able to be perceived by others as someone that they can turn to and enjoy spending time with and connecting with. That's the most important thing to me, I think.
Wonderful. Well, second to last, feel free to say no, but we've talked so much about music, and it's obviously had a big part in your life in terms of confidence, in terms of friendships, in terms of just overall well-being.
Yeah.
I've had the honour and privilege of, being in the band and almost getting that front row seat to seeing you perform, and it's spectacular.
Oh, thank you.
And I think it's really valuable that, it's a big part of you, and as we, mature, your voice probably will change and improve. Is there like a 30-second to a minute snippet that you could maybe demonstrate now? I know you haven't warmed up or any of that,
what?
but would
you want me to sing?
Yeah.
Oh
some
my goodness.
Previous podcast guests have done it, which has been really good.
Really? Oh gosh.
Is there any parts that you would feel comfortable? Because I think that would be really cool. As a second to last.
God.
You can have a bit of time to warm up, but yeah.
Okay. Will you sing something with me?
Sure. What song?
That's. We could sing Amazing Grace since we were talking about it.
Okay.
This would be funny.
Okay, this would be funny. Should I get like the backing music, or should we be fine with just the lyrics?
We should be fine with just the lyrics. We just got to pick a note to start on, I suppose.
Okay, that's
just
a little technical for me, but lead me, yeah.
Let me think.
Do you want the lyrics as well, or do you know it off by heart?
I know it. We're
Okay.
just saying up to. Oh.
I'm very excited.
Okay, should we just sing out to like there?
Take here.
Yeah? Okay. Ready?
Actually, maybe to here, because then it repeats.
Okay.
Okay, you lead me whenever you're ready. Wait, are we counting in? Or?
Sure. Okay, we ready?
Yep.
What note should we start on? Or maybe low.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
Oh, that's good. We can stop. Oh, Dave, you said you couldn't sing. You've got a great voice.
Sorry. What an honour to sing with one of the best in Cambridge.
We should do a duet in jazz band. Gosh,
People will come to laugh at me. So.
Well, we're providing entertainment. I think that's brilliant. Gosh.
All right, well, final question, typical final one. I know you've listened to many episodes, but what's one message, Corey, was saying you wish every educator, leader would promote and every kid would internalize? And, you've been through so much highs and lows, so many words of wisdom that you've received from other people. But if you could summarize your philosophy for a good life that you want all the kids to understand, what would that be?
I'd say balance is a key word. I would say find your balance, look for the joy. Again, to kind of say a similar thing to the quote that I mentioned before, sit in the presence of the joy of it. And if you can do that, finding those moments of happiness in every day. And obviously, I feel like I can't preach about any of this because there's so much that I don't know. And I feel like I'm really on a journey in terms of trying to think how I'm going to live a happy life. But focus on others. Change your outlook. Always look outwards and think how you could make a positive difference and connect with people. And then all good things surely stem from that. But yeah, as I say, I don't think I'm in a position to preach or in a position to tell people. There are so many different ways to live a happy life, and I appreciate that. But yeah, being with other people and finding joy in the presence of other people and spreading some kind of love is definitely part of meaning in my view and in my experience, and I hope that continues to grow for me. Yeah.
Well, Lucy, thank you so much for not only the time for this podcast, but just for the kind of memories we shared through jazz and music. And it's always very inspiring seeing you handle a variety of different things at such a high level. And I definitely think you are kind and supportive and just all the good things. And indeed, we're all on a journey. So
thank you so much. I would say the exact same about you. I think it's inspiring, especially this, as you describe it, your passion project. And I'm really grateful that you wanted to share it with me and to give me this experience, which has been really good. And yeah, I'd say you're far better than me in terms of balancing your time. I have no idea how you do so many things. But yeah, I'm grateful for your friendship as well. So thank you very much.
Performance on Tuesday. Let's do it.
Yes, jazz.